This episode is brought to you by Naked Fig Soap. Shop over a dozen handcrafted artisan soaps locally sourced and made in Arizona using the finest non-toxic intentional ingredients. Naked Fig Soap also offers facial care products along with accessories like soap dishes, soap saver bags, and more.
Visit their website at nakedfigsoap.com and use code DRUMMINGUP, all one word, for 20% off online orders. And that is the best place to find her now.
Yes.
She doesn't really have a storefront so much as she has
As of right now.
Yeah, as of right now,
Yes.
she has her products in certain locations,
Yes.
which again is the best place to find her is at her nakedfigsoap.com website.
Yes.
Or her socials. Instagram is a great spot to find her. Ask her any questions where she's going to be at like a farmer's market.
Yes.
You can find all that out. Or
But coming up, she's
Yeah.
moving to bigger and better opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very happy to hear that because,
Yes.
we just want to
She's
make
one
sure
of our
she's doing
favorite,
okay.
favorite companies.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we're getting low, we always place our order.
Yes.
And again, use that code drumming up,
Yes.
all one word, to get that 20% off discount.
For sure.
nakedfigsoap.com. It'll be in the show notes. We'll have her website. And then the best thing to do is from the website, go find her socials, follow her. That helps her. And by you doing that, it helps us because we know you're listening and we know you're buying her great products. She also offers tattoo care and everything too.
Yes,
so
she does.
just a ton of stuff that she does. It's all locally made and everything. So what was that website again?
That is nakedfigsoap.com.
Using code drumming
Drumming
up,
Up.
all one word, for 20% off at checkout.
Hi there, this is Julian of Gorad, and you are listening to Drumming Up Conversation. Hell yeah.
Drumming up conversation. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up conversation. Drumming up, drumming up, drumming up conversation. Drumming up, drumming up, drumming up conversation. Drumming up, drumming up, drumming up conversation. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Got it. Okay. Got a little notification there.
Yeah. Figure we'll just get the recording started. We edit it all after the fact, but
Okay, cool.
I forget in case we get I've done it before where I've forgotten to hit record. I'm like, oh crap.
Oh no.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 questions. I'm like, cool if we ask you those again.
Hey, can we kind of low key start over?
Yeah, we got in the conversation, I just forgot. So
Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah, we had a weird day too. Just
Yeah.
yeah. I hate middle.
Well, we're here now.
We are.
I've got some Aridus wine. I've got the Sauvignon Blanc,
Okay, we
um,
got the Movedra.
the Mourvedre. Yeah.
Mourvedre house.
In fact, so we did a custom flight, in fact, for the 50 party.
Can we freeze?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. We lost audio.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go. You're back. Okay.
You got it back?
We're back.
Yeah.
Sibilance.
There we go.
There we go. Sound check.
So we got
I'm
50,
no,
custom flight for 50 people.
right, yeah, but the point of the matter, to make a long story short, we finished with the Mourvedre. That was their finisher. Great medium bodied bread. I know my coworker Paulette, she's it's not super chewy like a Cabernet, but it's medium body. It's satisfying enough to kind of draw you in and kind of keep you interested in what it's got to offer. So yeah, it was actually the biggest seller out of the lot of the 4 that we had for their flight for the evening or the afternoon, I should say. That was the one that most people took home a bottle of. So tells you something.
Yeah, for sure. Ours is the Graciano for sure. So
Yeah.
Oh, the Graciano. Well, listen, I mean, that's a heavy hitter. That one packs that's a wallop. Yeah. I think
our
that's like
Friday
16.5%. Yeah, it's a hefty one. But I mean, yeah, it's gorgeous. It's full bodied. It's great. I mean, I don't know what else you could really say. I mean,
for sure.
you could try to abstractly describe everything, Lisa would be a lot better at doing that than I would be able to be, but, or that I would be able to do, but it's huge. It's a very robust, Italian varietal. And she, the way she processed it and treated it, it shows that, the end result of how she garnered that varietal. It's a really, really strong red.
Yeah, we let her know that too when we interviewed her. Like, yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, you're like, hey, yeah, you.
Thank you. Yeah,
really knocked it out of the park.
That's what got us to that's what got us to contact her in the first place. Was like we got that Flagstaff, that exact bottle. I'm like, this is amazing.
Oh yeah,
and up in elevation. So.
Oh yeah, and again, so I don't know if we went over this or if this came up in the topic of conversation when you were speaking with Lisa. I kind of would imagine that it probably did, but maybe just to reiterate, the estate vineyard it's desert high country. It's 5,200 feet elevation, I believe, give or take.
Yeah.
So that's, at least for my perception, I guess, I would have thought that you kind of have this, at least I did, you kind of have this weird perception of like, as you're going south, like towards the border, you kind of just assume that you're going down.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're actually going up in elevation. Mm-hmm. It's a little kind of counterintuitive, at least again for me. But yeah, so it's seated on a relatively high elevation for the deserts. And so what that sort of translates to on the back end of how these varietals, how they fare in that kind of an altitude climate, microclimate. It's hot days and cold nights, which is really what the good lion's share of varietals, that's what they thrive in. That's really what you get. Out. A little bit, yeah. And that's kind of a deeper sort of like permaculture and horticulture sort of thing as well. It's not, because then the root systems of the plant, in this case a vine, when they're stressed, they go into kind of shock and self-preservation mode, whereby their growth is like just it just kicks into gear because they're trying to survive. And the root systems will extrapolate farther down and in a very expedited manner in an attempt to try to get to the water table, to find a reservoir. And so they like to dry out a little bit in order that they can really fully establish themselves and become really fruitful plants. Again, that's sort of above and beyond vines, but that certainly is a predicate for growing vines of many, many, many different varietals.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off.
All right.
Ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. So how long have you been with Aridus?
Actually not even a full year.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a year in like late October, early November.
Okay. Were you previously in the wine industry?
No, I was not. I just left a seasonal gig out in Idaho, specifically like McCall and like New Meadows, excuse me. And then I met the really great, this really great vineyard and tasting room in, it's just outside of Boise. I think it was Garden City, just sort of adjacent to Boise. It's called Cinder, Cinder. And Monica, I met her at a bar in, the sticks of Idaho, doing my kind of seasonal work. This is like the first like kind of thing I was doing sort of post COVID. And it was great, change of scenery, kind of almost a turning of a page in general. So I was really excited to be out there, just to kind of resetting with life a little bit, resetting with myself a little bit, perhaps as well. And so I kind of happened to rub shoulders with her, and she's like, if it doesn't work out up here, if it runs its course, give me a call. She gave me her business card and, implored me to reach out, and she was going to hire me if I wanted to. And she has a tasting room And I went down there because I was actually really interested. Had worked in, I've worked in service industry, pretty much since I was 15 years old. But never anything specifically pertaining to wine, specifically. But in any case, I was interested, and went down there and was pretty gung-ho about like, yeah, I want to start here and, like learn everything about wine that I can and, try to, just go for it. But unfortunately, I don't know if this is the case now. This is a thing that's happening, many different markets, but I couldn't find a place to stay that was anywhere close to affordable. I was like actually more kind of like just looking for a room share, just rent a room somewhere, have a mattress on the floor, just get everything into gear. And I couldn't even find that. It was just it was a very, very oversaturated kind of rental market, and it didn't play out. I tried, as I really was proactive about it, trying. I was online looking at listings. I did that for a weekend in earnest, and I'm like, okay, I can't afford. I'm basically paying to sit here and twiddle my thumbs, and I'm running out of money. I can't. It's not going to work. But I called her up and I profusely apologized. I said I really wanted this to work. I just don't think it's not going to go. If something changes, perhaps I'll reach out to you. But I think at this point I gotta head back home. But then that's the long-winded sort of preamble. But by the time I got back to AZ, I still wanted to. It kind of lit a fire where I'm like, yeah, I think instead of just going back to the same old places that I've kind of already worked in, it seemed like a new horizon. I would like to learn about wine. It seems interesting, and I enjoy drinking wine in my private life.
Sure.
And it just seemed like a change of pace instead of, working at a Scottsdale bar where, it's you kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Right.
A little bit. It just seemed like a more even keeled pace, and the opportunity for, a steady revenue seemed present. But it just was something that I had that itch to explore. And so when
I'm sorry, are you native
No,
to
go ahead.
Arizona?
I am, yeah.
Okay, me too. Born and
Go
raised.
AZ.
That's right.
AZ, baby.
There's not a lot of us, so.
Especially not nowadays, no.
Where did you grow up at?
So I actually was born just a hop skip away from the tasting room on Main in Scottsdale. I was born at Scottsdale Osborne Hospital, 1992. It was a good year.
Boy.
Oh my God,
you
you're
had to
younger
do
than my
that.
daughter.
Well, but yeah, I went to Arcadia High School. So like East Valley, Phoenix. My parents, they had, different businesses and shops on Marshall Way, and which was like, actually their first shop was very, very close to where Carlson Vineyard is now located.
Okay.
And they had a shop on Fifth Avenue for a little while. So that I really actually truly grew up in that area, as a young punk little whippersnapper kid, getting chased out, because I'm making too much noise from the gallery shop owners who had a little bit of a stick up there, what?
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so I've very much grown up in the area and consider it to be home.
Nice.
Awesome. Justin grew up in Chandler.
Chandler Mesa.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that area has exploded so much, especially like the housing market,
well, and I was born in 81. So there was nothing out here.
Well, no, at that time, I mean, it was so, you think of like, even like Anthem, like Anthem when I was growing up was like nothing. And now Anthem,
there was one Anthem, the one in Phoenix. Now there's one over by us.
We're out in Queen.
There's a second one?
There's an Anthem Florence.
I used to work right up.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work up the street at a olive place, and people call all the time. Yeah, I'm in Anthem, and I can't find your location. I'm like, okay, you just go there. I'm like, oh, we're in Phoenix. I'm like, oh, shit. You guys have quite a drive ahead of you.
You have overshot
There's
the mark.
And you're calling on like a Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, it's gonna take a little while to get out here.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck, Bucko.
Yeah, like there's two anthems. Yeah, we try to do that to confuse people that aren't from here. So
Oh yeah, definitely. We do that just to
there's two of
bamboozle you.
everything. Yep, there's the Sun Cities. There's two of those, just confuse them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, and that's actually news to me. That I very well could have been one of those people.
Yeah.
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 Queen Creek's exploded just
Yeah, Queen Creek. Yeah.
been back.
All yeah, and think of think of Glendale. I mean, Glendale, same thing.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, it was the 17 and the 60, and that was it.
Yep.
And everything has really, really, proliferated in a very big way.
Yeah, I remember when it was just the Coyotes Arena out there.
Yeah.
And a year later, I was like, oh my God, it's its whole own little like city out here now.
Yeah. So because was it Coyotes at that point, or was
Yeah,
it?
that was it. That was
okay.
it.
Are we talking about like because when I was young, it was Cricket Pavilion. It's now Auction. Is that what we're talking about? The outdoor amphitheater?
Well, before you were born, is Blockbuster.
My God. So funny you bring up Blockbuster like a week ago.
It was Blockbuster Desert Sky Pavilion.
That's what it was? Okay, because again, I remember it being Cricket.
And then Cricket, yep. And then now whatever it is now. And I think there was an Ashley thrown in there too, right? I think.
Like a home, yeah, the home
Ashley furniture, right?
Yeah. I could, yeah, no, that sounds about right. But I still call it Cricket,
Yeah, I do too. I just call it the Pavilion because I'm like, I don't know who the sponsor is anymore. I have no idea.
It's hard to keep up with that stuff. Like it's the same thing with downtown. To me, it's still America West Arena.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called now.
I
frankly don't really care. It's just
Bank
to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the same way. Yeah, we're stubborn Arizona rats out here, or desert rats.
Oh, yeah.
Here, so
you're
stubborn.
Converted.
Yep. Everyone else can call it whatever they want. We're gonna call it what we know. So
yeah, exactly.
Sure. So what is your exact title at Aridus?
I'm just a tasting room associate.
Okay.
But I've been learning on the job. Seriously, no hyperbolic tone here. I've been learning on the job every day since I've been there. And again, I think a lot of that's just because if you have an earnest interest in something, you're going to absorb more, than you would otherwise. But, again, even like I was working for several months before Theron entered into the equation, but Theron, he is a complete encyclopedia of anything and everything wine related. It's really it gets incredibly impressive. And so I was kind of, as soon as he entered into the fold, it was just kind of like, okay, just, shut up and listen.
Well, 2 ears and 1 mouth. So that's what I always say.
It's an old kind of, it's an old adage, or I don't even know what it is. I'm probably paraphrasing, but basically the thought or the notion of, I never learned anything when I was the one speaking.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you're in the presence of someone who clearly knows what they're talking about with such a great breadth of understanding and knowledge, you're obviously wiser, and you're better off just absorbing it, just listen and ask questions, and so yeah, rubbing shoulders with people such as him has deepened my even relatively novice understanding of the world of wine. So I'm really thankful for that.
How long has the tasting room in Scottsdale been there?
It opened in 2015. I believe the tasting room in Wilcox, because we're an adjunct facility, I believe it was 2013 that they opened theirs. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was. But yeah, so basically, to answer your question directly, 2015 for the Scottsdale location.
Yeah, I wish we'd known that then.
Yeah, no kidding.
You're not the only ones who have said that. We had people saying that, in fact, today with the large party reservation. You know, how long have you been here? Oh, well, since 2015. Oh, well, what if only we knew, you know?
Yeah, no
Exactly.
kidding.
So what is your favorite wine there that you drink the most?
That's a tough one. I have found that as I've become familiar with all the different varietals, and this is a part of what's really cool about what Lisa is doing. We do a small amount of blending annually. It's a small percentage of what is being outputted by Aridus as an estate vineyard. But really what she is doing is I don't know if it's just something she's doing as a point of differentiation from our competitors, or if it's just what she thinks is cool. Maybe it's a little bit of both, but in any case, she focuses on single varietal barreling and treatment of these varietals, which is really, I would imagine that's more challenging. But as opposed to doing a bunch of blending, because you can kind of salvage, weaker barrels by kind of adding and subtracting this or that, try to get it
Syrah in with this one because it'll balance out the acidity and what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a whole art to that I totally respect. This is not like a holier than thou, comment or assessment, not in the slightest. But I would imagine, all things being equal, that would be a little trickier. Because you have nothing else to fall back on. There's no safety net there. You're not blending any of these varietals together. But again, the advantage, the payoff, if you're successful and you're on top of it and you give the varietals what they want and need so that they can proliferate to their potential, what you get is something pretty special. And it's basically what I think Aridus has to offer that is different than, other vintners and other wine tasting rooms in the Valley. You have the chance to, a Grenache, generally that's a blending grape. Of course you can get a Grenache, but you just want to taste a Grenache and sort of encounter the inherent strengths and characteristics of that varietal, then this is your opportunity to do that.
For sure.
And so many, like our Bordeaux flight is a perfect example. They're all blending grapes that are sourced from, they're world famous from the Bordeaux region of France. But again, it's not a blend. That flight is not a blend. We don't do a Bordeaux in the classical sense.
Mm-hmm.
We have, on that flight, we have the Merlot, the Malbec, and our two Cabernets, the Cab Sauv and the Cab Franc. Those are generally utilized in that context as blending grapes. So it is kind of a unique opportunity to explore the idiosyncrasies of a single varietal. And I think that's sort of neat and special. But sorry, your question was that which one's my favorite? That's tricky because they all have their own personality. It's like, like asking a parent, like, which is your favorite kid? It's like, well, they're all really different. You probably do have a secret favorite one if you do have kids, but you wouldn't say that. But I love the Malbec. I drink the Malbec probably the most, so that probably has to count for something. But our Cab Franc Barrel Select is very, 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 very good. And our new, I love our Tempranillo, our standard label Tempranillo, as well as our new Barrel Select Tempranillo. They're very different. They're both beautiful. They're both gorgeous wines. The standard label, quote unquote, Tempranillo is, from what I understand, that's more indicative of an old world style of venting for that varietal. Whereas the Barrel Select is decidedly more contemporary. It's really a Tempranillo on steroids, like sort of everything that you imagine that you like. Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's one of our favorites. So yeah.
Oh, it's because it's amazing. That's why. You know, kind of in a lot.
again.
Yeah. I have
It's sort
to, oh, I'm sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I have to say, I'm not big on white wine, but
Yeah.
when we went there for the wine tasting, our daughter had the white flight,
Mhm.
and they not only smelled great, they tasted delicious. They were
Yeah.
amazing.
And so again, like as a callback from earlier, I'm currently sporting the new 2020 shameless self-promotion. 2020. Oh, it's going to be inverted perspective, but yeah, it's the 2020 Sauvignon Blanc.
We can do that too.
That has love it. Oh, and the Batman.
We got
Yes,
Yep, in the back. Exactly.
I knew I liked you.
Right on. Oh, you'll love this then. I don't know if you
Oh.
can see that.
Yes, dude. Yes. You
So
just
when-
want a bunch of points right there.
Right on.
So when
Yeah.
we went there for the tasting, of course, here at home, the wine still tastes great, but it seemed like it tasted a little bit different in your glasses. Do you sell the glasses there?
Oh yeah, we do.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
I think they're $5 a pop.
Yeah.
Geez. All right. Cool. All right.
I don't know if it's the way they're cut, but I have like the rounded glass, and it just it tasted better. It still tastes great, but it tasted better.
Just
there.
had a different finish.
We'll see. Ours has, and again, this would be a better question for someone like Theron.
Okay.
But I can tell you that glass that you just had, that's a very standard, like that's, I could reach in the cupboard and I could pull out a glass, that would look exactly like that.
Right.
But the ones that we have, they do have a hip. So that as an associate, that makes it foolproof to be able to pour an exact half pour, which is
Gotcha.
2.5 ounces. It's
Yeah.
2.5 ounces to the hip of the glass, where it starts to straighten out, because it kind of comes out like this and then this. Obviously not as narrow as like a flute or something like that. It's a full size glass. But that yours didn't have a hip. Most of those, that you would just buy anywhere, they're not have a hip. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know if our glasses are any wider, but as far as aromatics are concerned, all of those sort of little idiosyncrasies do matter. They seem kind of superfluous, but it's all cumulative. It all does add up to your overall experience and your overall finish and your perception.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I don't know if we have any plans Saturday, but we're gonna have to go up there.
We might have to
Yeah.
go up
I'm in.
there Saturday.
I will be there. I will
Cool.
be there.
All right. So besides wine, what else do you like to drink?
I honestly, I just stick with beer and wine.
Okay.
That's it. Really, I'm really simple in that way. I don't really have a taste for any other alcohols or spirits. I don't do craft cocktails. That's not me. That's not what I'm about. And again, everyone's different. It's not some holier than thou thing. It's just not my thing.
We just picked up a bottle of Headbanger whiskey that's made in Scottsdale, and it's 131 proof. It's pretty good.
I would be such a embarrassing mess.
We kind of were.
Well, it's kind of hard not to be, it's something like that.
We had to get it. I'm like, I've never had anything. I'm like, well, let's just get it. We can just pour a little bit and just sip it. And
Right. Yeah.
it's local.
Be a gentleman with
Local. What's that?
I said, be a gentleman with it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
A little rocks glass. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have
for
some
sure,
cool
yeah.
little So Soli from Godsmack makes little whiskey.
The
Stones.
little whiskey stones.
So yeah.
So funny. I was actually just listening to some Godsmack. I was listening to I Stand Alone. It came on my Spotify. I love me some Sully Erna.
Okay, here's a little fun fact about Godsmack. They played at the Arizona Bike Week 3 years ago.
Really?
Yes, we
Why did I
got
know-
married. We got married at Arizona Bike Week under the KUPD tent that
There you
day.
go.
And so
Did-
Godsmack technically played our reception.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a rock and roll story right
Right?
there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was And I called it the year before
Yeah.
because she's like, "Who's playing next bike week?" I said, "It's gonna be
Godsmack.
Godsmack." Sure enough, I'm like, "All right,
There you go.
you're good." They're playing our reception.
You scried into the crystal ball. What do I
Yeah.
see? I see Godsmack in our future.
Right.
So they skipped us on their fall tour. I'm like, "Oh, they're playing bike week then." Like, 'cause
Good
they
call.
never skip
Yeah, no.
here. Yeah, they never skip here. They love playing here. They recorded
Little bit of-
changes here. So
Little bit of deductive reasoning there.
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, so we love telling people that Godsmack played our reception. Then they're like, really? Oh my God, how'd you make that happen? It was easy.
Yeah, we didn't really ask them. We just forced them to do it.
That's awesome. No, that's a righteous.
For sure.
It's a good story anyway.
Yeah.
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 Well, hey, as my grandfather, used to say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Exactly. Exactly.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yep.
What got you into metal music?
Actually, Godsmack is a part of that. So, being born in the early 90s, being a very young kid when, Nirvana is still on the radio, and then like the kind of new wave of like, at that time it's new metal.
Right.
I remember there were a few seminal moments that really were, I know it sounds a little, dramatic or, whatever. Relax. Hey, stop, relax. Sorry, the dogs are going a little buck wild.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Okay, so it's my lady friend. It's her. She's got a boxer named Drexel, named after the character from True Romance, and my buddy Cliff. He's my short-haired Saint Bernard. He's a pile of dogs sitting in at a comfortable 155 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a whopper. But no, so there were a few seminal moments. I was into rock and roll like immediately. I remember when it was my 6th birthday party, my older cousin Cody, who was sort of like a surrogate brother to me, I thought he was just so cool. I wanted to be just like him. He gave me a Queen. It was a greatest hit CD of Queen. So Queen was my first love.
Nice.
And to this day, Brian May is still one of my favorite guitar players. His sort of orchestration of 3-part harmony and
Was it the red cover CD?
Well, it was like a maroon color. Yeah.
Yeah. Maroon. Yep. And it started
Like
off
maroon
with We Will
gold.
Rock You and We Are the Champions.
Yep.
Killer
And then it's
Queen.
Killer Queen. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I had the same one.
Yep. It was a good one. I had it in I had like a Sony. It was a purple Sony CD player that I would ride around
Good
on
old
my.
Discman.
Yeah. But at that time, CD players had become kind of affordable, and this is prior to Napster and downloading and LimeWire and that kind of stuff. So I was going to Sam Goody and spending my allowance money, buying whatever I could get, and so then it was Led Zeppelin, then it was Boston, and then it was Black Sabbath, and then it became Metallica and all I kept going heavier.
Right.
As I kept going, and I still have a soft spot for the melodicism of bands like Queen and Boston and so on and so forth. I love King Crimson. I love a lot of the prog stuff, like the classic prog stuff.
Me too. Yep.
But at that point in time, again, I remember, sorry, I brought up my cousin. This is a part of it. So it dovetails with what I'm kind of going over. Slipknot in 1999, that was kind of their moment where they were, becoming huge.
Right.
Their self-titled debut. And I remember I was staying over with him and my cousin Kyle, their brothers. We were hanging out, and it was the weekend, and we rushed back to the house because Cody wanted to watch Slipknot on Letterman, and they played Wait and Bleed. And I remember being, again, I was like, I must have been 6 years old. I remember just being like, what in the absolute shit is happening right now? I had no clue what I was watching. You had Clown on the, playing the trash cans,
Right.
and it was just, this visceral, chaotic, vitalizing energy, and it just immediately, it was like I was hooked from that moment on. It was just over. Like there was no way, there was no out. But it grabbed me immediately. I remember listening to that in the car. And then Godsmack was another one too. I remember he played Voodoo, and again, not one of my favorite songs of all time, but like it's a cool song. It's really, it's obviously very moody. But like I remember him playing that and being just like completely like sucked in, like that, like whatever that is, like I like that, and I didn't understand why, but I just knew that I really, it just made an enormous immediate impression on me.
That was fresh Dream Theater for Justin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that kind of revelatory moment. And then again later, that obviously that keeps on happening as you grow and as you explore further. My seminal, like my real moment of like, okay, now I'm home. Like this is what I've waited for. It was when I was 12 years old and I found Metallica. I mean, that actually changed my life.
What was the first Metallica album that you remember listening to?
I think it actually was Ride the Lightning. Okay. I think I had Ride the Lightning first, and then I got Kill 'Em All, and then Puppets, and then Injustice for All. Okay. So and then I think actually I bought at some point I got Black Album, but I think I bought it with another one at the same time. I can't remember exactly when. I couldn't tell you at this point, but I believe it was Ride the Lightning. And to this day, it still might be my favorite. It's kind of a toss up between that and Justice. Okay. Justice is proggier, sure. A little bit bleaker, and Ride the Lightning it just sounds 80s in the most beautiful, magnificent way. It's a little bit more power metal. There's a blatant epicness to it, where Puppets is very epic, but it's more like concentrated. Like it is, but Puppets gets all the talk because it is more fully realized in a sense. But I think that the leap from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning is beyond astonishing. Like it's actually insane, because not only does it completely flies in the face of the quote unquote sophomore syndrome, for a band where, supposedly conceptually you have your entire life, your entire formative years to formulate and to codify your first record. Like, what do you really mean or whatever? And then, but now not only can you replicate that, but can you actually grow? And that's the thing. I think that Metallica kind of like, that's the people who are really devoted loyalists to Metallica. I don't think it needs much explanation to them, but I think other people who maybe are more sort of casual listeners to Metallica, I don't know if they really get that. Well, that it's the growth and the progression of Metallica is like the Beatles. It is like Miles Davis, where they just kept going. They didn't stay in one place. They are not a static experience. And either you're going to be alienated by that, or you're going to really be rewarded for the breadth of their catalog.
Well, it's and like Rush.
Yeah.
Rush's first album is completely different than their second album. Yeah. Mind you, Neil joined after the second one, but their first one was like Zeppelin, Raw, like more of just a traditional rock. And then Neil
Does that have Working Man? Does that have Working Man on it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then you go to Fly By Night, and it's like, whoa, they're progressive. Yeah. Their songs have there's so much story now. They're telling a story with their music. It's not just, all right, 4/4, here we go, we're gonna knock this out. And Metallica was the same thing. They came out of the gates, just thrash. And then like, oh, but here's Fade to Black. Or
yes.
Here's Call of Cthulhu and all that stuff.
Here's
and like,
Creeping Death.
Creeping Death, yeah.
Okay, what are your thoughts on Saint Anger?
So, okay, I saw that in the notes. Okay. Here is and I've kind of already touched on this, like I am a Metallica fan. I'm like, it's in my blood, it's in my marrow. Like I will live and die by the sword of Metallica. But so Saint Anger, again, if you can,
I think I'm the only fan of that album.
well, hold on. If I may, let me go on. So Saint Anger has some awesome songs on it. I love Dirty Window. I love Sweet Amber. I love Frantic. There's some great songs on that record, but here, I appreciate that record, I think, from a different angle than perhaps I think it's a trendy thing to just shit on Saint Anger.
Right.
Oh, that snare, it sounds like garbage. And you're like, okay, well, yeah, you took the snares off. It was a choice that they made. It was a choice that they made. You may not like it. That's totally fair. I don't even like it. It was over compressed, everything. Right. But what about this? It's so interesting. More than it's a great record. Like no one heralds it as being like this triumphant, great return to form and like really awesome record. But if that's your metric, you've kind of missed it already. That record is so cool on the tenets of it was basically Metallica unspooling, like on the verge of no longer being a band.
Yeah.
And you're hearing Hetfield trying not to lose his family and his kids. You know, you're hearing them going through their midlife crisis. You're hearing Metallica.
Hetfield and Lars, because on Some Kind of Monster, they were just button heads everywhere.
Right. And again, think of how, like, to kind of go on to that for a second, think of how a bit ahead of its time that documentary was as an expose to, like, that wasn't a trendy thing to do at that point in time, to be that emotionally honest and vulnerable. That would have been a much more successful thing to do now, where mental health and all that kind of stuff and emotional honesty, those are very much things that are in vogue right now, which is great. But at that time, that was an incredibly ballsy thing to do, to stick your neck out being the mighty Metallica. It's so antithetical to their brand, their image, and it was alienating to a lot of their fans, like their core fan base. But that's the point. Metallica never stopped being Metallica or doing what they want or like going in the direction that they're interested in or being true to themselves. And so it's the world that it's, you know, oh, they sold out. Now there's a ballad on the record. They're saying this in 1984 with Ride the Lightning, which is still considered to be one of the greater metal records ever made or like released and put on wax, you know. And then, oh, the Black Album. You're like, okay, you're a little butthurt because they wrote some awesome songs that had awesome production, and they did want to simplify. They wanted to codify their sound because, as a natural reaction of making Injustice for All and then having to go out and play those songs live and being like, Jesus, what have we done? Like, this is such, we're never gonna play this song again live. Like, they would go off stage and literally say that to each other. Like, we're never playing that song again live, because they would narrowly get through it and they would be pissed off, agitated, and just tense of like, this isn't what this is unsustainable, you know. So Metallica, they were always on their own trajectory, and again, people either appreciate that or they, oh yeah, it's only their first four. It's like, well, I mean, their first four you can't argue with. Their first four are absolute scripture, you know. Master of Puppets is in the Library of Congress. It was deemed to be a significant, culturally significant, you know, piece of work. And, you know, without just all college radio, no real like mainstay, like airwave time, no music video, no MTV, no Bon Jovi bullshit. Like, I mean, the quality of the work and the manner in which that they toured with the veracity that they did from a very tender age. They were 23 years old when they released Master Puppets. What were you doing when you were 23 years old? I was at 7-Eleven. Hey, do you want a lid on this? Yeah. But it's like, it's amazing. It really is it's an amazing feat. Like, now Metallica is a piece of Americana, and I celebrate that. I think that's the coolest thing on planet Earth. I think it's cool that that even just their logo, which James Hetfield himself did make. He took, drafting in high school. He had a compass and all that kind of stuff. He made their logo. And so not only is he like one of the greatest frontman in metal / rock and roll history, he also is arguably one of the most successful graphic designers of his era too. Because his logo is as ubiquitous as Coca-Cola, or just about. You see a Kardashian wearing a Metallica shirt, and you kind of roll your eyes. That's your first knee-jerk reaction, as it should be. But then you're also kind of like, well, actually, it's sort of cool. You know what I mean? They did it. Those crazy bastards did it.
Yeah, it's up there with like the AC/DC thing and all that too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
for sure.
So do you play any instruments?
I do. Hold on, let me see. I got to plug in my my phone here. I'm running a little low on battery. We got the charger for the phone. Yeah, give me 1 second here. Yeah, I play guitar. I started playing when I was 11. So actually before I found Metallica. At the time it was like I wanted to be like Zakk Wylde.
Okay.
He was big man on campus, at that point.
Have you seen the movie Rockstar?
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah,
yeah.
No,
you gotta watch that.
Very long time. Yeah, no, he's in
baby Zakk.
Yeah, the shade.
He didn't have the beard or anything.
Zakk Wylde. No, I mean so there's some really cool like footage of him when I think he's still in high school. He grew up in New Jersey, and Zakk had his first band, and they were playing somewhere in like a parking lot in like this weird random plaza. And I mean, he is absolutely tearing it up. Like, I don't know how old he was at the time, but like he was Zakk Wylde. I mean, he was already fully fledged, rock god, Zakk Wylde. And I remember they did like a cover of like Mississippi Queen and, doing like, Sweet Home Alabama, or, he's always kind of had like, even though he's from the Jersey coast, like right. Kind of fancies himself like kind of a Southern good boy.
Right.
But that he go watch that if you're a fan of Zakk, because I think he was pretty young, or maybe he came home and was off tour and like just did it just because he wanted to play. But that set is so cool, and it's like they're just playing in some parking lot somewhere. Like, it's really a pretty neat thing to go check out.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, if you can find it's on YouTube. I don't remember what the name of the video is called, but I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah. Speaking
of
Zakk
the
Pantera,
yeah. How do you? I know we talked about it a little bit. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so listen, so when we had that conversation, all that I had, basically gathered was that they were going to do a reunion tour of some kind.
Yeah.
I hadn't bothered to look at the lineup. I was really busy at the time, and I just gotten like kind of like reading like taglines for thumbnails on videos on YouTube or whatever. I didn't actually see who was going to be filling in. And then I saw, okay, so Charlie from Anthrax and Zakk Wylde are going to be filling in for the Abbott brothers. And then you're like, I would go see that, I will try to. But so Zakk and Daryl were actually really good friends.
They were at the same time.
They really did, but they were kindred spirits. It was definitely a mutual respect, kind of mutual admiration society between the two of them. And so again, just by proxy of that fact, I'm a huge Zakk Wylde fan just in general. Like, he's one of the baddest in town. I mean, he's one of the best to ever pick up the guitar. as far as like, rock and roll and metal. Like he doesn't use like hard, if any, legato. He picks through every note. Like he's so accurate. He plays aggressively. He's articulate. But he has his own voice. He had his vibrato. You can't mistake it for anything else. It's so wide. No one has a wider vibrato in all the land than Zakk Wylde. He's unmistakable. And because that they were good friends, I'm like, if anyone's going to fill in for Daryl, it should, and it needs to be Zakk. Like that there's a righteousness there that's actually kind of tear jerking a little bit. And Charlie is a total ace. I'm sure I don't need to tell you.
Yeah, he can handle it. But
I totally handle it.
I just have a problem with it calling it, first of all, a Pantera tour and a reunion tour. Because half of the band isn't a reunion. It should be called the Celebration Tour.
Right.
Because you're missing the founding members of the band. Rex wasn't even on the first album.
Right. And we drew the obvious parallel, which I mean is bound to come up. And in fact, I mean, they were probably some of the biggest influences on Daryl and Vinny was, Alex and Eddie from Van Halen. I mean, the Van Halen brothers, they grew up learning to play their instruments together at a tender young age, just like the Abbott brothers. And how locked in they were and how like succinct they were with their grooves is an implicit thing that you can't conjure that. They were the backbone of Pantera and Van Halen respectively. So that is, to me, I get where I'm on your side. I agree. It's a bit of a respect thing as well, like where,
well, and again, that Dime and Vinny could have kept Pantera going, and they didn't out of respect to Phil. They formed Damage Plan, and that's what got Dime killed.
Right. So there's a discussion there to be had, but yeah, I see. Yes.
I think the wording of what it is wrong. It should be called the Pantera Celebration Tour, and I'd be fine with it.
And you'd be stoked for it too.
Yeah. But you call it
Pantera, see the lineup, and you'd be like, you know what? Yeah, it's not going to be. No one's going to be able to replace Dime or Vinny, but it's going to be pretty cool. But I get where you're coming from, and I do agree that it's not. It can't be. Just by the nature of what it is, it can't be a reunion. It's not.
It's not.
So
and it's not Pantera either.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And Rex is awesome.
Yeah.
Phil's in great shape. You know what I mean? He's turned a corner. Obviously, his struggles have been well documented.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's ferocious. He's a total force.
Yeah.
He's never really stopped being a force, even in spite of his misgivings.
Yeah.
So I would,
I just hope they change
try to get my hands on a ticket.
Yeah.
What's that?
I just hope Charlie and Zakk go, hey guys, let's change this whole reunion Pantera. Let's change it. Let's call it something else.
I think that would be favorable. I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know. I think they probably could like tap him on the shoulder again. It's still going to be Phil and Rex's little entity now.
Sure.
But like, hey guys, like,
we called that down.
We called it. If we just pivot here, call it this. Just rebrand it real quick. Like, I think we'll be better off
for sure.
But yeah, I'm to put a point on it. If anyone's going to play Daryl's parts, it's got to be Zakk.
Yeah.
Like I was charmed by that. I was actually sort of relieved because you can get anyone as a hired gun, but then to thread the needle of it being someone that really, where there's a personal connection and there's a familiarity and he's going to play the shit out of his parts. I mean, he might not play everything note for note. He's going to play it like Zakk Wylde, but you can count on it being like really, really awesome.
Yeah. For sure.
He's going to tear it up.
Yeah. And Charlie's going to do a fine job too.
Oh yeah. He's
Charlie.
He's a heavy.
I mean, Charlie was Vinny's influence. So, I mean,
Right. Yeah. So
people forget Charlie was 10 years before Vinny.
once I saw the lineup. Yeah. But again, so like after I kind of felt like in a way, I sort of felt like I jumped the gun for having, an opinion on it. Cause I didn't actually bother to look, as kind of silly as that is. Okay, well, who's going to be filling in for Vinny and Dime? But then once I saw that, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm not vehemently rooting against this. Like, actually, I'm going to probably do a 180 and try to get a ticket,
Yeah.
So
Nothing wrong with that. It's something, so Pantera was my unicorn. I never got to see him. So
no,
I missed it. My parents wanted to go on.
You're wearing a Pantera shirt right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, my parents decided to go on a winter vacation back east, so I missed the New Year's Evil when they played at Bank One Ballpark. I had to give my tickets away, and I've been letting them know that they fucked that up for decades now. So
Yeah,
like,
that's rough. That's
I
rough.
can go to Connecticut whenever the hell I want.
But seeing Pantera there, that was the moment
that
in
was
time.
it. I even had the ticket and everything. I was like, oh my God. Yeah,
No,
it's not like
that's
I
tough.
hadn't bought it yet. I had the ticket in my hand. I was like, I had to give it to a couple friends. Like, here you go.
But at least we
Enjoy.
did get to see Vinny.
I
And
got to
we
meet Vinny
him.
twice. Yeah, with Hell Yeah, which was really cool. So yeah.
Right. They had
He
some cool
was
stuff.
so nice.
He's so nice. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, he seems like he would have been. And so same thing with Daryl.
Yeah.
You can tell they were cool, salt of the earth guys that like no pretense, like just, you could tell like they were just warm, cool people.
They did it right. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So what's the best concert you've ever been to?
Honestly, the Metallica show that I saw in February.
Okay.
So I'll give two answers. So that was amazing just because there were 70,000 people that were there. It was in Vegas at the new Allegiant Stadium, which is now the new Raiders Stadium.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this when we were talking last week. So the venue capacity, I looked it up. I'm like, this is insane because it's a football arena.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like down to America West Arena to see Tool, which I did also this last year. Where it's a different venue capacity. I mean, it's still a lot of people, but a football stadium. I mean, it's a big leap. I'm like, what is the venue? Because it's a brand new stadium. It's brand spanking new. In fact, I think it's the newest one in the country. As a matter of fact, I looked up.
The one that the Rams play at, I think, is the two newest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, in any case, it's pretty much brand new.
Yeah, for sure.
And I looked up because I was curious because it was seriously like to the rafters. All the nosebleeds sold out. All the floor standing seats, which is obviously the entire field,
Mhm.
sold out. All the seats in the entire arena sold out. I'm like, what is the venue capacity for the stadium? And according to Google, it was 60,000. I'm like, but that's not taking into consideration.
Wow.
Well, it's not taking into consideration the people who are standing on the field.
Yeah.
That those are floor seats. Because again, it would be like for 100 yards
Yeah.
of floor standing, people.
Were they in the middle?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so
The
it would have
stage was in
been
the
the
middle?
field. Yeah, they were.
Okay.
It wasn't like a snake. It wasn't like a snake pit kind of thing. No, it wasn't like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so you have to imagine there's 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
So I would say like a conservative estimate was that 70,000 people turned up to witness the mighty Metallica, in their late 50s,
Yeah.
it's really awesome. And they played their asses off. It was amazing. They opened with Whiplash. They went straight into Ride the Lightning. Obviously they played hits, but the set itself was amazing. Kind of obviously gives you a little bit of a grab bag of everything, from their whole catalog. as you would imagine. But I mean, it's really amazing that they're able to play at the caliber that they are in spite of their age. Like, it's not just like, oh, they're doing well for their age. It's like, no, they're just kicking ass in general. But you do have to take that into consideration. Like, it's not like the Rolling Stones where they're playing, like a slower pace kind of, swagger roll. It's like, no, Metallica is it's a full contact sport. Yep. It's a different thing. But yeah, so that was amazing. That was a very memorable night on planet Earth for me. But I remember being, I think I was 17 or 18. I was really into a band. All my friends were, my friends that we played in the band together when we were this age, we were really into a band called Baroness. And Baroness is a band from Atlanta, Georgia. Anyone who's listening, look into Baroness. I
think they sound
amazing band. Yeah, so Baroness, like, if you're kind of into like Mastodon and that kind of stuff, you'll maybe take a liking to them. They've changed a lot. They're one of those bands that they've been, there's been a constant sort of lineup rotation, just kind of like King Crimson.
Yeah, it's
like they can't hold
Crimson.
they can't hold down a lineup to save their life. So we went to go see Baroness. A band called Earthless opened, and I think they're from SoCal, and they're kind of like a psychedelic, like a little bit stoner jam band. Like, they have these songs, like at the time they had an EP that was out. What was it called? But there were a couple songs. There was a song called Sonic Prayer. And then they had like this like little B-side. It was called Cherry Red. But Sonic Prayer, and what was the song? That was the second one. What was the first song? I don't know if I can remember at this point, but go listen to Sonic Prayer by Earthless. It's a long song. It's probably 20 plus minutes, but and they're a 3-piece and they're an instrumental band. They're so good. Like, it almost like Rush. I see moving pictures. I see the wall in the background there. But yeah, they're so good, and they were the opener, and we were really excited to see them too. And God, I feel like there was someone else who opened too. The entire night was like, it was at the Clubhouse, when the Clubhouse was still around before they got shut down for their shady business. But that was, again, we were teenagers, yeah, make sure you definitely cut this out of the Aridus portion of the combo. We smoked a joint behind the dumpster in the alley before we went in, and we headbanged the entire time. We had an absolute blast. It reminds me of being 17. Like, it was we still talk about it. Like, it just is a legendary show. So that, like, for my like more formative years, and then more recently Metallica in Vegas. Yeah, those are right at the top.
Have you ever heard of Nothing More?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll say, if you have it, you gotta check them out. 2 of the members are from here. So okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They got some great shit.
Oh.
We got to see their first show at the Roxy in Hollywood, opening for Adrenaline Mob. But
how cool was that?
The first 2 bands that came out, was it 2 or 3?
3.
The first 3 bands that came out were just so shitty.
Just the sound was horrible.
It was horrible.
They're just trying to be loud, not sound good. One of those or 3 of those.
And so the 4th band comes out, and it's Nothing More. And here comes Johnny out with no shirt, no shoes, and we're like, okay,
what the hell is this?
What's this jackass doing? And as soon as they started playing, we're like, oh my God.
As soon as they were done, I ran over. I'm like, what do you have for them? I bought everything they had, shirts, CDs, everything. I'm like, oh my God. And then 3 years later, they're all over the place. I'm like,
yeah,
cool. I'm glad we saw them what we did.
They put on the most amazing show. We went to see Disturbed at the Coyotes Arena.
Yeah.
And it was Nothing More, and then Chevelle, and then Disturbed.
Yeah.
But Chevelle, all they did was go out and just play. And Nothing More puts on this huge performance.
Huge
I don't know
show.
if you've ever seen them live.
And Disturbed was great too.
Yeah, and I like Chevelle. Justin does
but live. They should have
went out and they
switched.
just played. And nothing
I had
more
some Chevelle
has,
records when I was growing up. Yeah.
yeah, nothing more has so much energy on stage. He was like, Chevelle sucks.
Well, it's just they should have put Chevelle for just by
Yes,
just
yeah.
because it's kind of like, oh, and then Chevelle's like, you're just like, okay, cool, and then just it's like you can't just build it up and then slow it down and build.
Yeah.
You just, let's keep that train rolling, and it's kind of like
Right.
it's kind of slowed down. I'm like, you shouldn't build a show this way.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah. And I've never seen. I mean, I'm not huge on them, but like I had a couple of their records.
Yeah.
Yeah. They came up on the road trip that we were on, we just got back from. What do you guys think as far as Pete's vocals? Do you feel like he's trying, like he was kind of from the get-go, like right out of the gate, trying to cop Maynard's vocal style?
For which group?
for Chevelle.
For Chevelle.
Yeah.
Pete
Oh.
Chevelle. Do you hear any parallel between him and Maynard?
When we saw them, it was the last night of their tour, and it almost seemed like there was some
Like they didn't like each other that night.
yeah, it's like they were so ready to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
So I couldn't give it a good gauge. From what I've heard, I hear a little bit of like, yeah, I guess I could say like Solly meets Maynard a little bit for the vocals.
Okay. Yeah.
But Justin being a drummer, he was
'Cause
like, oh, the
I-
blah blah blah.
I hear it there. Yeah. So speaking of drummers, who's your numero uno? Is it Portnoy? Is it
Nope. It's
is
another
it
one.
it's not Danny Carey? Is it
It's Neil.
Neil Peart?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All day, every day. Yep.
I should. Yeah.
And then Portnoy. And then Buddy Rich.
So Buddy Rich. Okay.
Vinnie Paul.
I mean, he's obviously, one of the guys.
Terry Bozzio.
Vinnie Paul, yeah.
Have you ever heard
So
of
Terry
Achilles-
Bozzio, yeah.
Have you ever heard of
What's
Achilles Priester?
Achilles what?
Achilles Priester?
He's from No Trouble.
No.
Oh my
No.
God. Oh, you gotta check him out.
It's a
I gotta
band
look
called
into
No
him.
Journal. They're Brazilian.
Okay.
He's insane. Absolutely
I'll-
insane. Yeah. You got I think
I
you'll
will
like
definitely
his-
look into it. Yeah. Look into him.
Yeah.
So
we'll be up there Saturday.
just-
Yeah,
Also, we'll talk shop. We'll talk
Yeah,
shop. So
for sure.
we were in the pool. Like a week and a half ago, and I don't remember how Rush came up. Again, I'm not a huge Rush fan. Like I didn't really grow up with their records, but I did kind of dabble, and especially when you're going through the prog, kind of I don't want to say phase because it really isn't a phase for me. I just generally love prog, in the broader sense. But of course you have to contend with Rush. But Geddy Lee's vocals always were tricky for me. But it came up when again we were in the pool, and my lady friend, she's talking about like certain songs, and I'm just like, what about La Villa Strangiato? What about Jacob's Ladder? I'm like, those are cool ass songs. Those are real prog songs.
Well,
Yeah.
so his best
And we
vocal-
played them. We played them in the pool. It's 1,000 degrees. We've got Modelo's in the pool. You know what I mean? And we were listening to La Villa Strangiato and Jacob's Ladder.
yeah. So if you want to get someone interested in Geddy's vocals, go to Counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
The album Counterparts. His voice a little deeper there. I think it's more refined. That's what I'll introduce people to that have a problem with his vocals. I'm like, all right, listen to Counterparts. Tell me what you think. You're like,
Well, obviously he's an incredibly talented musician and writer and performer. I mean, that can't be taken away from him.
yeah,
It's like it's a stylistic thing. It's some people hate Robert Plant's vocals, which I can't imagine, but everyone's different, some people love Chris Cornell. Some people don't really care for him,
Well,
Yeah,
and
but
the thing with Rush is like, oh,
we
they
did
have
not.
so many instrumentals. What's your problem with Geddy?
Well, right. That's where like a piece like La Villa Strangiato, you're like, okay,
YYZ.
this is just
Yeah.
YYZ. Yeah, obviously,
I
you're
mean,
listening to them just prog out.
yeah.
As a 3-piece instrumental band. Which that to me, the heart of Rush's sound was always the instrumentation, you know,
Yeah.
that was, they were all kind of born to play their instruments.
And it's 3D.
And there's great lyrics in there. Yeah. They had a huge sound for just being, you know, for being they were a power trio. They kind of made that term like really a thing. They are the epitome of the power trio.
For sure. And again, the lyrics. I mean, Neil's lyrics are some of the best lyrics. I mean, I have them tattooed on my arm, so yeah. He was my biggest inspiration because I write the lyrics for my band as well. So.
Oh, sure, yeah. And because
he's the reason why
they were actually philosophical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they were asking questions about life and you know, kind of finding your own way. I kind of also said this. I don't know if you get this. I know it's sort of maybe a certain extent, to a certain point, it's a little unfair because it just sort of maybe paints them in a corner. But like, to me, if you really had to boil it down, if you had to like put them, like if they were a book or a movie, like what genre, like where would they be labeled? Where would they be situated? Like to me, Rush isn't like, the sound of Rush is an adventure.
Yep.
You know, if they were a movie, they'd be an adventure movie.
It would be like Lord of the Rings, but like all 6 of them. So like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, you know, like all of it. Like, yeah. Yep. I get that for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause again, of course they have tones and shades of other things, but like, you know, Tool has mystery, you know, Led Zeppelin has mystery. I don't know if they have a lot of mystery. Like they just sound like, again, there was a purity to the sense of just adventure and, you know, discovery. You know, that's what I associate.
But none of them have 40 consistent years of music either. And Rush did. Rush never was under the radar. They were always in the forefront for 40 years. I mean, we've kind of 50 now, really. So,
but again, to that point, you know, for anyone who's, you know, you don't have to be an acolyte like myself, but anyone who's sort of a hater or just doesn't maybe quite get it, you can say exactly the same thing with Metallica.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Metallica, before they had a record contract with Megaforce, before they were on Elektra, they were a big deal. Like they were selling out shows. Like they were the hot chick at the party. Mm-hmm. You know, Kirk left Exodus, which was his band that he founded, to join Metallica, because Metallica was they were the one that their star was rising. You know, they were going to go on to make Master of Puppets. It's like, are you in or are you out? And he's just like, sorry guys, you know, you're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate me.
Well, Ringo was in a band bigger than the Beatles, and the Beatles plucked Ringo from that band, and
the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, same. So that's like the Kirk Hammett thing. Like Kirk Hammett left Exodus, but he joined Metallica, and Ringo Starr left. I don't remember what the name of the band was. They were big. They were playing bigger shows than the Beatles at the time to join the Beatles, because he's like, no, these guys are going somewhere. We're not.
Right. And yeah, but like to your point though, like you can very much say the same thing about Metallica, just the longevity factor of bands like Rush, of bands like Metallica. Like that's a very, very, very rare phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like most bands, maybe they make a good record or two and then they fizzle out. They start, you know, pitching a fit about money or the drugs, or, you know, that takes hold, or, you know, they get screwed by the record, you know, the management team, or whatever it could be. And there's so many snakes in the grass that can take down an otherwise, you know, a band that has potential.
Well, and going
to actually
genre changes.
Yeah.
It
keeps growing, evolving, you know.
Yeah. New wave, grunge, new metal. But Metallica and Rush were the two constants during that time.
Right. You know, but Pantera, they were the ones that kind of saved metal from
the new
metal era. It was really Pantera that they kind of took the flag and ran with it.
Yeah, when Nirvana was a big band, Pantera's like, no, we're gonna have a number one Vulgar. We're good,
Yeah, no, we're gonna keep sending it.
Yeah, exactly. And Far Beyond, we're gonna take Nirvana, we're gonna raise them a Pantera. So yeah,
exactly. Yes, and then the whole like sort of new wave of American metal that would come thereafter with Lamb of God and Killswitch, Trivium, All That Remains, and so on and so forth. I mean, the Mastodon. You could argue that like how, like, would that have had the trajectory? Would that have had a time and place, or would it have been as impactful? Would it have sold as much? Would they have had the right amount of sort of management representation from the record companies? Had Pantera not continued to like keep that going? Well, and I kind of really question who's doing that now.
Well, and people forget too that the two guitar and drum sounds that everyone used for those bands you just mentioned was Vinnie's and Dime's sounds.
But hey, I would actually argue this: the Abbott brothers, they were very influenced by Metallica. There's pictures of them actually kind of like, I don't know if actually it may have been Metallica on tour. Maybe they crashed with the Pantera clan. In fact, there's a picture. It's around the time of Puppets, and James has one of Daryl's MLs in his hand. It's like a sunburst one, and they're making goofy faces and stuff, like just being kids. But and Justice for All is what changed all of that. And a lot of people, that's a very obviously divisive sort of record production wise, but like the hyper scoop mid guitar sound, there wouldn't be Static X without that. I mean, like all that kind of stuff that came afterwards, like that was And Justice for All. That was Hetfield, and frankly Lars's drum sound too, where there's a lot of bottom and there's a lot of high end attack. His snare's super crisp, and all of like those that you're hearing a lot of the beater head on the double kick, where on the earlier on Lightning and on Puppets, it's a lot darker. You're not getting that articulation, like that 2 to 4K. You're not getting that. And that became a part of the modern metal sound that we just take for granted now. Sure. Like you listen to Chris Adler's drums, and it's not that extreme, but you're also hearing like, okay, right, that just became a thing. Yeah. Like that record, in spite of how much they screwed Jason over, which is well documented. Yeah. And I'm not here, arguing against that. In spite of that I think more so than Puppets and Lightning, that was the record that I think got more bands to actually start, like to pick up the sticks, pick up a guitar, and like, no, let's try to do this. I think it actually was more Justice. And the production, I think, was a part of that too, because it sounds really, really thin if you're listening to it at low volumes, but as soon as you start cranking it up and get some volume, some wattage behind it, it sounds huge because it's so scooped, and you're getting a lot of low and you're getting a lot of high. And so bands like that, just, they heard that, and it was like a call to action, I think, a lot, certainly for the mid and late 90s. And I think you still hear it today.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I mean, Anthrax's one with like Got the Time on it had that very big Metallica type sound too, right after Injustice came out. So yeah, I get that for sure. Definitely. And
listen to a lot of the Testament stuff too, where it's super scoop Marshalls, and Metallica's like, okay, yeah, we already did that. We're going somewhere else. Yeah. But I love Testament. In fact, I like them.
Tempesta is one of my favorites too. So.
Oh my God, isn't he great, dude? Oh. I think he's very
a powerhouse.
He's a total powerhouse. I think he's a real unsung hero.
I do too.
And Alex Skolnick is he's a complete neoclassical wizard. I mean, his sense of phrasing and diction and intonation, you're like, yeah, he in his last lifetime, he was like a concert, like, violinist or pianist or something. Like it just seems like that's what he must have been that. And Chuck Billy, he's such a great front man. I rank them higher than actually, frankly, the other big four. Even though I'm a big Megadeth fan. I had the first 5 Megadeth records, and I listened to them all in earnest. But I think Testament, they kind of got the short end of the stick there. It was just the timing of it. They weren't they weren't riding that first wave. But Testament, I mean, as far as like a thrash band and like also like melodic metal, like they're up there. They're really, really great.
Yeah, and they're still coming out with great stuff. But yeah,
that's the thing.
Up
like
there too. Yep.
Again, so they're a bit of a sleeper because they haven't really stopped either.
No,
they've had longevity, as well.
I'd put Testament above Anthrax for sure, just because Anthrax kind of dabbled into other stuff, whereas Testament just stayed with what they were. They didn't try, but I mean, they still became diverse. They still did. They dabbled in prog. They dabbled in melodic stuff, but they stayed to their roots as well, which I really enjoy. So,
no, I love some Testament. Oh, yeah. I think Musical Death came on when I was walking in the door, which is my favorite instrument from them.
Okay.
It's on New Order. I think it's the closing track, and it's just complete like neoclassical metal, like Eargasm City. It's so good. So good.
Nice.
Do you like any classical music?
Oh yeah.
Hector Berlioz is total metal.
What's that?
Hector Berlioz is total metal for that time.
Hector Berlioz.
I'm not familiar. I'll have to look into him. Hector Berlioz.
Yeah.
Oh, please do. I'll eat it up. Trust me. But I'll match you one. You ever listen to some Alexander Scriabin?
No.
Dude.
Okay.
His music it sounds like the apocalypse. Wow. I mean, I would even say more so than, and then Holtz had the Planet series, Mars is, that's with the Tritone and the Black Sabbath and everything. That's all, like, I don't need to go on inside about that.
So Berlioz is very
it's
similar.
Pretty well documented, but
to that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of that, again, you've got the Romantic era, you've got the Baroque era, but then there was that kind of pocket where some of those other composers their lightsaber was a red lightsaber. They were like, they wanted to make their work sound like a cacophony a little bit. And Alexander Scriabin is probably, again, if I'm talking about like actual, like melodic, like who do I think is the greatest composer of all time? I think you have to just say Bach. I think in comparison to anyone else, like in comparison to Bach, we all suck. But Alexander Scriabin is he was eccentric. He was an eccentric, like visceral music. Like it if you're in a weird place in your own head, don't listen to it, because it's not going to do you any favors. It will crush you psychically. It's very powerful stuff. And, but I find it to be really, really intense and interesting and fascinating and entertaining.
Okay. We'll make these last two quick. Any bands that you haven't seen that you want to see? Or that you just never get to, like My Pantera, of course, but.
Well, Pantera's, that's one of them. I mean, obviously that sort of doesn't really count because it's going to be a reunion thing. That's a good question. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, she just said Zeppelin. I'm like, that's not a thing.
That hasn't been a thing for 40 years. So that,
Well, I mean, unless they do another. Well, I mean, they did that one-off in New York City with Jason Bonham, unless that happens again, which I really doubt. I find it to be doubtful, but I mean, it'd be amazing. But honestly, I've seen the Sword before, but I haven't seen them since I was in 8th grade.
Which
and
one?
they were actually on their first national tour. When I saw them, they opened up for Trivium, and they were awesome. And I would love The Sword.
Okay.
Sword. Okay.
Sort of doom metal, a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what? The
Okay.
Sword, yeah.
The Sword. Okay, cool.
They're awesome. They're amazing. I would love to see them. I saw King Crimson within this last year. They were awesome.
Was that with the 3 drummers?
No, it wasn't. It was with 2.
Oh, 2. Oh man, they're getting rid of more members again.
I guess, yeah. You know Robert Fripp. He's a real taskmaster.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah, they were actually really, really good. Ooh, Porcupine Tree. Yeah, I'd love to see Porcupine Tree.
Did you ever see Yes?
No, I never did. But
I got to see the original lineup once. Thank God.
You saw Steve Howe on guitar?
Oh, I saw the whole original lineup. I'm sorry, no, sorry. Alan White played. It wasn't Bruford, but other than that, it was the original lineup. It was Wakeman, Howe, Squire, and Anderson.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm a huge Steve Howe. I've got some of Steve Howe's solo stuff. I absolutely adore him. But so are you a big Bruford fan?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I will. He's Bill Bruford.
Yeah, I'll take Bruford over Alan White, but Alan White's great and rest in peace. He's fantastic, but just Bruford changed the game. Bruford influenced Neil, so I have to give him credit there. So.
And Bruford is like that's also Danny Carey's main guy, and then so I think Danny Carey, he was into the fusion guys. He was into like Lenny White and Billy Cobham, but yeah, his main cat, as far as I'm aware, was always Bruford.
Yeah,
which makes sense
for sure. Yeah, you can definitely hear that. You can hear both Neil and Bruford in his playing for sure. So
absolutely.
Okay, so our last question, since the podcast is drumming up conversation, who is your favorite drummer?
So I did see that from earlier. That's a very easy answer for me. That's John Henry Bonham. I mean, that's Bonzo. Yeah. Final answer.
Wasn't expecting that. So right
in fact, Bonzo's maybe he's top 5 favorite musicians for me. Okay. Like not just guitar player, like just musician in general.
Okay.
I mean, Bonzo is the guy, dude. It's Bonzo.
I learned how to
he's
play
the horse that
yeah, he's the 1 foot master. So he's who I learned how to do those triplets from. So yeah.
What's that? My God, yeah.
The bass drum triplets.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix once told I think he told on Good Times Bad Times, that's he was a total wizard, and I guess he wanted to do a double kick thing like Vinny Appice, and Page was like, nope, not gonna happen. You can make more happen with 1 foot than people can do with all 4 limbs.
Yeah, for sure.
But John Henry Bonham.
Okay,
awesome.
I dig it.
Final answer.
Okay, I dig it. That's awesome. All right, well, thanks again for all of your time.
Absolutely. No, this was fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now you have to get War Child. You have to get Patrick on here.
Okay. Yeah.
And Theron.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys so much. Hey, yeah, and I'll see you guys are going to try to come in sometime in the near future. Yeah.
Probably this weekend. We'll bring you some Nocturnal and we'll bring you some Berlioz.
Yeah, we'll bring you some music.
Yeah, bring me the classical one. Yeah, too.
Okay, and I'll bring you my band.
Berlioz,
right?
So. Please do so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll bring you my album.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate this.
No, thank you for your guys' time. Thank you for having me on. This is great.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Drumming up conversation.